Researchers at the Gottman Institute say they can predict whether your relationship will succeed or fail after 15 minutes of listening to you and your partner talk. That's crazy, right? But apparently it's over 90% accurate. That statistic blew my mind. I am really fascinated by relationship psychology and communication. And apparently one of the most effective things you can do to communicate better with your partner is a technique called turn toward. I'll give the example that I read from an article in the New York Times. If I was sitting on the couch reading my book and my husband walked into the room and said, "Wow, look at that beautiful bird out in the backyard," I could completely ignore him or say, "Can't you see I'm reading?" If I was to turn toward my husband in that moment, all I would have to do is look out the window and say, "Wow, neat." Apparently, this is one of the things that researchers use to see how healthy relationship communication is. Relationships that they consider successful and that they know will last turn toward each other over 80% of the time, and relationships that fail do it less than 30% of the time. If you think this kind of stuff is interesting, I have 2 really great book recommendations for you after the break. So as you can tell, this video is a little bit different than the normal fantasy and sci-fi recommendations that I usually give on my channel. But since it's the week of Valentine's Day, I thought that I would dive into some books that are a little bit different than my standard fare. So while the other girlies on YouTube might be giving some great romance recommendations for Valentine's Day, we all know that the real romance comes from being able to have healthy, strong communication with your partner. Even though I don't normally go for self-help books, back in 2020 when I was planning to propose to my husband, I read 2 books about relationships that I thought were really, really helpful. The first one that I'm going to talk about is Fighting for Your Marriage, and the second one is called Everybody Fights. So why did I gravitate towards books about fighting? I think the reason for that is just because fighting is a type of communication, right? And it means that things have gone really wrong. Everyone kind of intuitively understands is that healthy communication is the key to successful relationships. But I don't think that everyone necessarily has that sort of communication modeled for them in their upbringing. I luckily did, but I always have room for improvement. And I definitely have had some toxic communication in some of my previous relationships. So I found these books really, really helpful and fascinating and fun. And I hope they will be for you too. This first book is called Fighting for Your Marriage. If you're really into scientifically backed strategies and data-driven results, this is the book for you. This book was originally published in 1994. So I do want to give some caveats, even though this has been updated and republished several times now. I believe this is the 3rd edition that I own. The language used to describe couples in here is very cis-hetero focused, but I don't think that that really matters. It is a bit of an oversight, but it's just based on the type of data they were collecting at that time. But I think that you could scrub the kind of gender norms and gender pronouns in here and apply it to any type of couple and any type of relationship as well. I don't think that you need to be married for this to be relevant. I think if you're in any sort of significant relationship, whether that's just with a long-term partner or a roommate, these strategies can really help your communication style and help you work towards healthier communication. Fighting for Your Marriage is written by 3 researchers, Howard Markman, Scott Stanley, and Susan Blumberg. Not only does this book show the data that they have collected over the years and successful strategies that they've used in couples therapy and couples counseling, it also gives real life examples, actual conversations and fights that took place between real couples, and then what they asked them to do in order to change their methods of communication with each other going forward. And so this book has actual exercises that it recommends that you do as you work your way through the book. So this is both a practical guide and kind of a workbook if you take the time to do that. I didn't do that when I was going through this. I just read it for my own knowledge, but I do think this would be helpful for couples who want to read it together and do the exercises as a practice. And it does recommend tips for how to practice these things together. And the book is split into 4 parts. The first part is understanding risks. The second part is teaming up to handle conflict. Part 3 is enjoying each other. And part 4 is staying the course. So there's lots of different chapters in here. They break it down into really nice nice bite-sized chunks. It's not like a super riveting read, but it is a really, really helpful and practical guide with some really great advice and proven methods for improving communication with your significant other. I talk about this book to anyone that I know that is getting married or is in a serious long-term relationship. I even bought a copy of this book for a pair of my friends as a wedding gift. And then I realized after the fact that buying a self-help book as a wedding gift is pretty cringy. So I kind of apologized to them afterwards. But that's how much I love this book, is that I think that every couple should read it. I still haven't gotten my husband to read it. So if you're in that same boat, good luck out there. If you're interested in learning more about that, but you think that a data-driven, super sciencey workbook type of thing is super not your jam, then I highly recommend Everybody Fights by the Holderness family, Kim and Penn Holderness. You might recognize them on the cover because they are a famous influencer couple, the Holderness family. You can find them, on whatever social media. They also have their own podcast. I'm pretty sure they won The Amazing Race a couple of years ago. So they're big internet people, and they have hilarious videos and songs that they put out. So I was a big fan of them. And when I saw that they had this book coming out, I just went for it. If you've seen any of your videos, they're hilarious. I think at the time that they wrote this book that they had already been married like 16 or 17 years, and they won The Amazing Race after this. And if you've ever seen The Amazing Race, that show is like specifically demonically designed to make marriages fail. So they obviously have a lot going for them. They work together, they live together, they have kids together. They've been through it all. So to the point, this book is really funny, and it goes through some of the biggest fights that this couple's ever had. And they have a marriage coach, and it has lots of practical advice from their marriage coach and what they've learned from some of these big blow-ups that they've had over the years. Obviously not all of them are blow-ups, but they tell it in just a hilarious sort of way. I was literally laughing out loud. I'm pretty sure I followed my husband around a couple times and was reading him passages from the book because I was like, oh my God, you'll never believe this. This is hilarious. Probably take a shot for every time I said hilarious while I'm talking about this book, but it really is super funny. They're very introspective. I think Penn has ADHD and Kim has anxiety, and so they are very open about their mental health issues as well, which is really cool. But their chapters are split up by the fights that they've had and what caused them and how they worked through them. And so they really view every fight as an opportunity to learn more about each other and learn how to strengthen their relationship by being able to grow from the thing that caused the issue to begin with. And so their chapter titles are things that I think a lot of couples will instantly relate to. Things like, I do everything and you do nothing. Are you even listening to me? You don't take me seriously. I cheated on you financially. But their first chapter is called The Battle of the Bra. And they did have a fight about a bra, which is really, really great. In addition to telling the story of their marriage and the fights that they've had and what they've learned from it, it also, like I said, has great nuggets of wisdom that they've learned from their marriage counselor. And I'm pretty sure their marriage counselor helped them write this book as well. So it does have some professional advice in it, even though Kim and Penn are not professionals. They're just a cute couple. I really enjoyed this, and I think this is super bite-sized and relatable and a great book to share. I think this would be even a good book club book. I think this one would probably be easier to get your partner to read than the other one that I recommended. So best of luck to all of you out there. And if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.